Hi everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about a topic that is very relevant. It's the Hebrew month of Adar, which is the happiest month of the Jewish calendar year, and it's also my favorite month. Hi Ella, how are you? Ella, Nessa, hi. So today we're going to be talking about happiness because you guessed it, it's the happiest month of the year in the Jewish calendar. So, I was researching this today, and I found that there's a lot of research. There's a lot of research in. You're feeling happy already. Okay, good. Esther Malki is already happy. Okay, you don't need to be here because you already know what we're gonna talk about. I'm joking. Please don't go. So let's begin. There's a lot of research since the late 1990s by psychologists who they're now called positive psychologists. There used to be there was this movement that started in the late 1990s, and basically what happened was they decided to study happiness, and they called it positive psychology. They did research on it, and then eventually it developed into real research and statistical data analysis, and they taught it to Harvard School. They taught it in Harvard as a class, and they called it happiness. So one of the professors in this class, his name is Shawn Achor, and he's also a positive psychologist, and he wrote a few books. Basically, what I'm going to talk about is what he spoke about, but just very condensed. And let's start with this. What is our definition of happiness? The old model of happiness, think about it, success and intelligence, striving towards success and intelligence, makes people happy. So he says that's a broken model that doesn't work anymore. And the reason he said that is because, let's think for a second, when in a time in your life you were reaching for success, let's say you were in college or high school and your goal was to graduate. So you finally bought your cap and gown, you're so excited, you walk down the aisle, you get your diploma or that fake circle paper they give you to make believe it's a diploma. You know what I'm talking about. And you feel happy for a little while, and then afterwards your success target has moved, and you now have a new target for success, which is what? Getting a job, because that's the whole point, right? And then once you get a job, you're excited for a few days, maybe a few weeks when you get your paycheck, and then what happens? You're not happy anymore, right? Because your target of success has now changed. So now your happiness target has changed too. So now, what are we going to do about this? He says this thing is broken. You can't use this as a focus, because if your target is always moving, you can never reach your happiness phase. He says success does not bring happiness, but rather the research shows that happiness brings success. Wow, that's mind-blowing. If you just work on your happiness, you will be successful in whatever you choose to do. So let's now talk about what is happiness with the new definition. This is what it is. I'm going to read it to you. Because I used my yellow journal, I hope you guys are using a journal to journal things, because this really does help people. Okay? And it doesn't have to be yellow, whatever color you want. So happiness is the joy we feel striving towards our potential. Let that sink in. The joy we feel striving towards our potential. When you're doing something that you feel is making you a better version of yourself, doesn't that make you happy? Let's say you're being a great mom to your kids at that moment, or you're exercising, or you're thinking, you know what, I'm going to organize and be more neat. That makes you happy inside, because deep down you feel like this is a better version of you, right? Giselle is saying so true. Yes. Okay, good. I'm glad you're listening. So let me see. Hold on. I get very distracted so easily. I try not to read the comments because like they really like I get entertained by you guys. I enjoy this as much as you. All right. So what can we do? What else can we do striving towards our potential? Doing something that has an impact in our life in a positive way. Understanding that our behavior has a positive impact brings us happiness. So when you do something that has a positive impact, even a small positive impact, how about smiling? He even says the scientific research, even if you don't feel happy, you smile, the other person smiles back at you, you have created happiness and spread it in some way. That in and of itself is a major progress for somebody who's trying to be happy, just smiling. Take it one step further. When I mentioned this before, writing it down, something that you're happy about that day. And he says research shows that the mind doesn't know the difference if it happened at that moment when you're writing it or if it's happened before, because visualization and the actual experience, it gets blurred in the mind. So what happens when you write down that moment that, let's say, something wonderful happened and you're re-experiencing it by writing it down, you are doubling your happiness. And when you do gratitude like that, you're drawing towards yourself more happiness. One thing that he mentioned is you can have a very successful person, but he's not happy because all he sees, let's say, not all successful people see this, but let's say we're talking about a successful person who's unhappy. He only sees the inadequacies of everyone around him, his secretary, his wife, his children. He is living in a very negative book. He's reading the book of his life from negative eyes. The Torah, the Bible, also talks about, and I think science really reflects a lot of the Bible, and I'm going to read something from the Psalms, which is the book that King David wrote later on. But I feel very strongly, and I think a lot of us do see this, the Bible really reflects on a lot of the scientific research that we see now. So in terms of happiness, there's a concept of, in Hebrew, Ivdu es Hashem besimcha, and it's actually in this chapter 100. I read it from time to time because I read in a class by Rachel Scholl. She said, whenever you have something grateful that happened to you, say this chapter 100. And it's really based off of scientific research. Why? Because when you are grateful and you say it out loud that you're grateful, or you write it down what you're grateful for, it brings you more joy. Let me read this to you in English. A psalm of thanksgiving. Shout for joy to God, everyone on earth. Serve God with joy. Come before him with exultation. I'm just reading the first two lines. So what does that mean? In this psalm of book, the cover page is broken. I think one of my kids ripped it. So he writes here, how can you be happy and expand on your happiness? By voicing it to God, by shouting to God, thank you, God, for this, whatever it is you're thankful for. And another thing, serve God with joy. It's the same thing that he says, which is striving towards your potential. It makes you happy. Why did God put us on this earth? It's not just to sit on our asses, okay? It's not for that. It's not for us to sit and watch the world go by. It's for us to use our potential. And when we use our potential, we are serving God with joy, because that's what God put us here for. Am I making sense? Give me a like if I'm making sense, because I feel like I'm a little bit confusing. All right. And I have another explanation. I brought with me the beloved alcohol of the last one. Okay, now I'm getting a lot of likes. I'm going to use this as a demonstration like last time, because I think people really appreciate the demonstration of alcohol. If I could open it. Okay. So he says, Sean Achor says, in his research, there's this whole concept of, and we know this, the cup being half empty or half full, right? What do you think? Is the cup half empty or half full? I'm going to give you a chance to think about it. And now I'm going to tell you what he said, which blew my mind. Okay? It blew my mind away. He said, stop looking at the cup and see that there's a pitcher. Huh? Did any of you think of that? Because I did not know there was a pitcher. And then when he said that, I was like, yes. He said, it doesn't matter if the cup's half empty or half full. Because you know what? You're looking too close to the cup. You have to expand your vision and look at everything. See that there's even a pitcher there. That means recognize the good in your life and look past the tiny cup that you're only comparing. Is it half full or half empty? Is it bigger than hers or bigger than his or smaller, or is it more full? Just forget all that and recognize you have an entire world around you, which is the pitcher, and it keeps filling up your cup however you want it. So practical ways we can implement happiness according to research is documenting, smiling more, and talks about happiness hygiene, which I'm going to talk about a different time, I think, but it's really very important. Just create one positive change in your life, which is what we spoke about yesterday, to keep a journal of that, and you will see a huge change in your life. I really want to wish each and every one of you happiness and joy this month, and as usual, it's a pleasure sharing my alcohol with you. Have a good night.